What is up, internet world, and welcome to Accelerate. My name is Mike and the man behind the camera is Ian, and today we're bringing you the 2023 BMW X7. Let's go! So BMW Canada called me and said, "Hey Mike, I got the brand new BMW X7 M60i." And I said, I don't want it. I want the base. I want this. This is BMW's largest SUV. And when you buy something large, you don't necessarily care about performance. You care about space, design, the key fob that has remote start in it, and also how expensive it is. Because although this is the bottom feeder version, it still has a hefty price tag. In the 2023 BMW X7 with this all-new 3-liter twin-power turbo inline-six from BMW. This makes 375 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, but because this has a mild hybrid system, you can actually get the torque up to 398 pound-feet of torque. Foot to the ground, build boost, and go. Bunny hops off the bar. And 5.83. Remember, this is the base motor on an X7. It's like Audi that has a 2-liter turbo, which is gutless. This thing's almost 400 pound-feet of torque and 375 horsepower. That is quick. Foot on the brakes, full boost, and let's go with those winter tires. 1.83 to 30 and 5.45 to 60. This is quick, man. So to the front of BMW's largest SUV built in Spartanburg, North Carolina. And according to Ian, which is the guy behind the camera, he believes that this looks like a Hyundai Santa Fe, which is why he no longer will be getting the keys of any BMW press car. Now, BMW's added 2 blues and 3 grays to its 2023 lineup, including this, the Sterling Copper Metallic, which has a blue overcast with some copper underneath it. It's actually really, really pretty when you look at it close. From a distance, it just looks like a bluish gray color. Nonetheless, you have these massive kidney grills, which some people love, some people hate, but actually on this thing, when this thing is dropped, it actually looks pretty decent. You have a camera up front, a larger BMW logo, and an updated fascia for 2023, including these fancy lights. Let me know in the comments below about the lights. Now, BMW is really trying hard to throw us off with their designs. They started with the kidney grills, and now they've got the lights. What do you think? It's a lot going on. I think they're trying to tone it down with this color, is what I'm thinking. That's their vibe. Nonetheless, you have 2 projectors here, and you have your high beams. You've got Parktronic sensors, and you have this aluminum plastic looking thing on the bottom to sort of throw your eyes off the kidney grills. To the side of this BMW X7 that is 17 feet long. The smallest wheels you can get are 21s and the largest, as I mentioned, are 23s. Because these are winter tires, these are 21s rims and tires. There is some lighting underneath, so at night when you walk up to the vehicle, it illuminates like this, super fancy, like it's flying through the wind. Now, around this mirror housing, you do have a camera which gives you 360 cameras, and the display is very crisp, so when you're looking at the 360 cameras, I will say you will be happy. Unlike the chrome on the bottom here, this is a tough one to swallow if you ask me. I do like the satin chrome up here though. Around this, it's all nice and satin chrome. Even the roof rails are satin chrome. But for some reason, they decided to put actual like chrome from a Yukon Denali down there, and I have no idea why. So if you have the key in your pocket, you walk up to the door and you want to lock it, there's simply 3 little lines here you touch, and it locks. But I got some disappointing news. For something that costs this much money, this part here is actually not acceptable. When I have the key in my pocket, I walk into the back doors and I pull it, it doesn't unlock. Can you believe that? On something that's this expensive, it doesn't unlock? That's probably the most disappointing thing I've ever seen on a BMW. Really, really wild. And I wonder if because it's built in the States, but I can't see that being an actual answer. It's like they're cutting costs or people don't use this feature, but to me, I do use it because I always get in the back seat at least 1 out of 3 times when I get in the vehicle. So I'm holding something, I grab my stuff, I put it in the back seat first. I'm not putting it in the front seat, I put it in the back seat. It's just really strange why it doesn't offer this, and I'm kind of disappointed, to be honest. But I am not disappointed. It does have remote start now. There is remote start on the key. You hit it 3 times and it will start. You hit the BMW button 3 times and it will start. Here, 1, 2, 3. Wow! To the back of the BMW X7, they have these new taillights with 3D elements. Come take a look how fancy this is. Feels like they just added some glass or plastic on the inside, some shapes, and they call it 3D elements. Okay. Now, if you're towing a big boat, you can tow something that weighs 7,500 pounds. With this towing package, you've got your 7-pin and 4-pin connector right there, super easy to use. You obviously have Parktronic in the back, and of course, a rear camera, a big BMW logo, X7, and then xDrive 40i. Now, I wish they put this rear wiper hiding underneath here because this will always break over time. It's just something that all vehicles do, and it drives me crazy. When it's here, it should be really hiding underneath there, especially when you have weather that looks like this. Front seats of the BMW X7. Wow. When I first got in this thing, I said, damn, that's crazy. And I got into it like 15 more times and I still say, damn, it's crazy. It's so shiny and majestic looking. Even these like cuts in this vent is cool. Anyways, at the top of the door panel, you have an adjustment to control the rear seats behind you. Then you have full massage. So if you press either of those buttons, you actually get a display on this 15-inch screen and it tells you exactly what you're after. So I can have pelvic activation, upper body activation, whole body activation, back massage, shoulder massage, lumbar massage, upper body exercise, and whole body exercise, all by hitting this button, and I have 3 wonderful increments. Underneath that, I can set my passenger seat to where I would like, and then I can store it in my memory. And then you have obviously all your buttons in here, including sunshades galore, all done right here, including how to pop the trunk open. Now, people are really hating on BMW because there are very little hard buttons left. And that kind of makes sense because things seem to take a little bit longer sometimes when it's done through the screen or it's done electronically. It's true, I'm not gonna lie. But the tech is so deep, you really have to study these cars before you buy one. The heads-up display gives you all this detail, including each satellite radio preset, and you can scroll through all of them. It's crazy how much detail they put in this heads-up display, which is large, I might add. It's a little bit far though. It's not as close as I would like it, but the fact that it has all these options in it is amazing. Also, rewind satellite radio is very, very easy to use. Ian, for example, doesn't like the fact that ventilation controls have to go through 2 menus before you can actually change anything, which is a little bit annoying, and I get it. Very similar to the Volvo, except the Volvo is pitiful and this is a lot better. Now, as for hard buttons and rotary, you do have your volume knob here. You can skip tracks, of course, your 4-ways, your defrost in your front and your defrost in the back. Those are pretty straightforward buttons and they're all right here. Everything else can be done through the steering wheel. You could obviously change your stations and all that stuff on the steering wheel. And if that's not good enough for you, you have everything down here where you have a rotary knob, you have media, home, map, nav, telephone. But the most important buttons on a BMW are performance modes, which is why you have Sport, Custom, Eco Pro, and then of course Auto Hold along with all your suspension adjustments to your right here. That is what is important when you buy a BMW. Everything else can be done on a touchscreen. Now I will say it is a little bit far from the driver to touch when you're driving and you have to reach over. As you can see, this is my exact driving position and I cannot reach the screen at full extension. I have to actually move my back forward and then do stuff. So I can see how it can get a bit irritating. Now, when you get to the storage of the center console, you have this cover, and behind this cover, when you slide this back, you have a wireless charger that will fit an iPhone 14 Max Pro. You have a full USB right there, and then you have larger cup holders that are heated and cooled per side. Not just one side, both sides are heated and cooled, and then of course you have a 12-volt plug that you can plug in whatever you like. And as far as storage underneath here in the center console, you do have a USB-C, and that's about it. But you do have this little crystal shifter for reverse neutral drive and sport right there, and then a park button right there. So anyways, all that's done. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, which is the screen. And like most manufacturers, the most important pieces that clients want are navigation, media radio, and then of course telephone. Manufacturers like to add different things such as personal assistant and voice activation, and sometimes it's a hit or miss based on your voice. In my opinion, I always still like to use CarPlay, and in this specific case, BMW has now added a digital key. So if I hit this 4 square button, very, very similar to Land Rover. You get all these individual, basically, buttons where it's more specific. So in this specific case, we can hit digital key and you can set it up. When BMW gives you a code, you can have all the same functions of an actual key, but also locate your car and all the things that you can get in a Tesla by having a digital key on a car that is not electric. So lastly, I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like, because a lot of people will be using this feature and not always the BMW system. So it's right here on the main left side. I hit this button and voila, this is what it looks like. Left and right, it's nice and wide and pretty much takes all of the 15 inches that this screen has to offer, which is nice. Way to go, BMW. Back seat of the BMW X7. This has something called the Excellence package that costs $12,500. It gives you this merino leather that's from the individual program and Napa front dashboard. But all these buttons are very luxurious. Check this out. For the seat to move forward so that I can get into the third row, there's a slider button here. I touch it. Clickety click. Let's pretend I'm in a hurry. Okay, here I go in the back. Put my feet here and I push this button. Or this button. Or this button. Okay. Okay, fancy. Okay. Oh my, okay, all right. There's a lot going on. This feels very luxurious, but I would say that it's fairly small back here. So similar to the Audi Q7, I've always felt that it's really only designed for anybody 5'2" and under. For someone like me that's 5'9", you can get away with it for sure. It is a little bit bigger than the old generation Audi Q7, but I will say it's still fairly tight down here. It is not as large as a Defender, and definitely not as large as anything like a Suburban, Yukon, any of that stuff. No way, Jose. But the premium quality is far better than those vehicles. Like $12,500, you can see it. Now when you're back here, you have this beautiful black Alcantara headliner. You have your own dedicated sunroof for the third row. You've got 3 increments of heated seats per side. You have a nice cup holder here. You have a USB-C that hides under this little cap that also exposes a tie down of sorts. And then of course you have your buttons here to move the front seat. Now again, this is a full 7-passenger. You can get this as a 6-passenger with 2 captain's chairs in the front, but this one has, as I mentioned, the upgraded Excellence interior package. It's so excellent back here, but you have to be 5'2" or 5'3", but 5'9" would be a little bit tight over a long distance. It's definitely manageable, but it'd be a bit tight. The second row of the BMW X7. Now people think they buy an X7 because they want the emergency 2 seats in the back, but the reality is that the person that should be buying the X7 is one that wants pure luxury in the second row, and that's why they offer captain's chairs. Let's take the door panel, for example. You have this massive sunshade. This is the biggest sunshade I've ever seen, to be honest. And there's 4 buttons. There's actually 5, obviously, with the window. But the 4 buttons are sunshade to go down on this door, sunshade to go down on that door, which is very similar to the Maybach. You have the upper roof shade, and then you have the back roof shade. So you've got 4 buttons right here, all just to adjust how much sun you want going in the vehicle. So let me get inside. Fancy. Feels super solid. You've got ambient lighting on the back of these seats. You have this little thing you can slide over, and then there's a USB-C because you have an input here to hold a TV screen that you can most likely buy from the parts department. You have a total of 4 vents, 1 per side and 2 in the middle. Of course, you have heated seats per side, that's obvious. You also have all your climate controls right there, and then you have, pretty straightforward, some fancy cup holders that sometimes get stuck when you try to put the seats down, which could get a little bit irritating. Hello, there we go. Boom, it works. Somebody's playing with this and almost broke it. Super fancy, everything is wrapped in merino leather. It's just so good. The quality is so good. But that's not all. The reality is the ambient lighting is off the chains. And they've put it on the sunroof. These little dots illuminate. It's so cool at night. Take a look. And just like the X5, the X7 has something called a split tailgate, which means when I press this button, only the top section opens up, and it gives me about 6 inches or so right here. So if I have everything in the trunk or anything in the trunk, it doesn't fall out, such as this toilet paper and a pair of Oral-B toothbrushes. And then I got a button here I press, and then it opens automatically. It also closes automatically. That's cool, man, that's cool. I can keep playing with that thing. And if I want to lower the suspension because I have something big to put in, there's another button right here. I press, and then, oops, and then, are you going down or up? Okay, it's going down. Okay, we're waiting. Kind of unique. It would maybe be more common sense to put something on the side here, up or down, like other brands, or its own brand, an older version. That's unique. Okay, cool. I don't know about how I feel about that, but you guys can let me know. Now, X7s come with this upper small tonneau cover. It's super small. It's the smallest one I've ever seen, and that is because this is obviously a third row vehicle. So if you want to put the third row up, there are buttons here. I simply just pull up. Those things slide forward and come up. That is genius. The fact the second rows slide forward is genius. Man, I can't tell you how many times other brands I do that with, and then it's too tight. Oh my God, and I gotta go around to each side, push it forward, and then the powers work. This one automatically moves. Man, you're smart. Now there are a total of 6 buttons here. The first 2 are for the second row. The ones behind them are obviously for the third row, and then there's 2 extra buttons. One that says Max, and the other says Suitcase Max. So we'll hit the first one, which is basically a human and Max, and see what happens. Okay. All right, then the next one says Suitcase Max, and I hit it, and the front row is moving forward. The back row is doing its thing, and I hopefully get all the space I can get to put suitcases in this thing. So hopefully all the seats drop down. Again, I do this thing live with you guys. Okay. All right. Okay. All the space in the world. Wow, this has 81 inches from the back of the center console. Now, when you think about the Defender, which is huge, massive, that has 85 inches. That's just 3 inches longer, which is nuts because the Defender looks way bigger than this. And they push the Defender as being super, super long in the 130. It's really interesting. This thing's actually really long. Now, this is where this button makes sense. This says a person and max, which I assume means maximum space for everybody sitting in the vehicle. So everything should be coming up right now and giving me full recline by hitting this button. So again, the button underneath it which says suitcase, that gives me as much space to put suitcases in, and the button above it that says the human, that gives me as much space for a human to have full relaxation when they're in the vehicle. Now, if you know anything about BMW, is they like to layer their suspension, brakes, and all those things in packages. And this has something called a dynamic handling package or something, and that includes rear wheel steering, which is money when you drive this thing because it is so long. Remember, it's BMW's largest SUV. You can get different wheels. Now you can get 23s and not just 22s. You can also get full air suspension, but not all 4 wheels. It's actually controlled per axle now. So you have the front axle and the back axle that has air suspension. And in typical fashion, you have BMW's active anti-roll bars that limit the movement from side to side when you're hammering around corners. It also has something where it detects what's going on in the future and it adjusts the suspension for you and the passengers. But let me tell you something, this thing handles like gold. It's so big and bulky looking, but it actually handles like a car, which is something you expect from BMW. The cool thing about BMWs is you never know how big the vehicle you're driving is. They make that seamless. This could be definitely an X5, definitely. X3, maybe not. Maybe the M60i will make it feel more like an X3. This definitely feels like an X5, doesn't feel like an X7. It doesn't feel as big as an Audi Q7. Audi Q7 feels big, but not this. This thing feels light and nimble and flip the ground. This shifting is so seamless. Oh, there's just something about a vehicle when you're behind it and the steering and the input, it just goes where you want it to. It feels exhilarating. It doesn't matter that it can carry 7 people. It just knows how to do it well. I like that they just don't go away from their roots. I know that people don't like the big grille, and now with these weird lights, they probably don't like them either, but it's just something about the drive feel of these things. It just draws me back. The only thing is, cars this size generally have a rear view mirror camera nowadays. Like even that Discovery we have had it, and a few other vehicles do have it. It's becoming more and more common throughout the brand, so maybe BMW at some point will adopt it in this rear view mirror camera. But yeah, if you are looking for something for the family and you are a spirited driver and you don't want to drive a school bus and you want something sporty that looks subjectively decent, then this might be the vehicle for you. Now, I know the 3-liter with Audi is similar to this, but still, this is a better motor. BMW just makes better motors at the entry level, in my opinion, than the Audis do. That 3-liter is good, decent. Oh, they're so close, but I think the BMW just edges it out, in my opinion. But where I would pick the Audi, though, is in the infotainment. I find the Audi way more user-friendly than this BMW. Even to get into the menus for climate control, you have to press a button and then slide over. It's kind of hard. I try to shut off the air conditioning and the air in the vehicle so I could speak to you here so it's quiet, and it was very difficult to even find that. I had to like hit the fan speed, hit the fan speed. It's just not easy. There's not one button that says turn everything off. There's a lot of buttons, but you have to find it. There's just so much going on in this 15-inch screen. So all the capability is there, but you just have to know how to use it. So user-friendly is not at the top of the list when it comes to this infotainment. Brakes very well, it accelerates quick out of a base car. Again, the infotainment's a little bit tricky, you just have to get used to it. The interior quality is obviously amazing with this $12,500 interior, but it's all about the drive, and that's what gets me every time. Thank you, BMW. Thank you. We'll catch you on the next one.